The blade that should not exist. The heat on Vesta 9 always felt like a heavy hand pressing on the back of every person living there. It was not the natural heat of a warm planet. It was the heat of recycled air, old engines, broken vents, and the endless smoke of factories that never slept. Jace walked through the Saturday market with slow, lazy steps, like someone who wasn't looking for anything, but was still hoping to find something interesting. He had no special plans and almost no credits in his pocket, but walking through junk markets was his favorite way to kill a boring afternoon. The place was crowded with shouting merchants, old machines, and the smell of hot metal. People sold everything here. Broken boots, cracked helmets, old tools, and machines that probably stopped working before Jace was even born. This part of the colony was not a place for fancy tourists. It was where forgotten things lived until someone wanted them again. Jace stopped at a small stall run by a man who looked older than the colony itself. The man's face had so many lines that it looked like a map of all the storms he had survived. The stall was full of rusted junk, bent pipes, cracked engine parts, old cables tied together like dead snakes. But in a deep bin marked MISC Structural, something caught Jace's eye. It was just a dark metal hilt, almost hidden under broken metal strips. Something about it looked different, almost cleaner, like it didn't belong with the trash around it. Curious, Jace reached into the bin and pushed aside the old rebar and plastic pieces. His fingers closed around the hilt, and he expected it to be heavy, maybe too heavy to lift with one hand. But when he pulled, the object rose without any resistance at all. It felt lighter than a broomstick. He blinked in surprise, holding it up in the air. It was a sword, or at least a shape like one. The blade was long, about a meter, and it had a dark, dull black color. It reminded him of metal that had rusted so many times that the rust became part of the blade itself. It looked dangerous, but at the same time, it looked old. The crossguard was simple, the leather grip was worn, and nothing about it screamed special, yet the weight, or rather the lack of weight, made it feel strange. Jace balanced the sword on his finger, laughing. "How much for this tetanus stick?" he asked, lifting it like a joke. The old vendor didn't even look up completely. He squinted through tired eyes and took a slow breath from his vaporizer. "That? 40 credits," the man rasped. "Been in that bin for 20 years. Jace raised an eyebrow. 40 was too much for junk, even good-looking junk. 20, it's going straight on a wall. The man scowled but didn't argue long. "Fine, take it. 40 and you're buying the rust. 20 is fair for a fool's toy." Jace grinned, tossed 2 scratched credit chips on the table, and walked away with the sword under his arm. He was already thinking about sending a picture to his friend S, probably making fun of how dramatic the sword looked. It was perfect as a joke, maybe even perfect as a decoration. That was all he thought of it. Nothing more. Far away, across stars and silent dark space, something shook. In a holy chamber built of white marble and cold stone, the air suddenly cracked like glass. The godweave, a shimmering holographic sphere floating above the floor, began to twist violently. High Archon Varelos, leader of the Varelon priesthood, stared in horror as the calm blue lights turned deep crimson. The entire galaxy's faith resonance screamed in pain. His ceremonial staff slipped from his hands and hit the floor, echoing like a falling hammer. "It has awakened," whispered a priestess with trembling fingers. "No, the prophecy does not say this," another whispered, shaking as the map pulsed with red waves. The Archon pointed at the source of the disturbance, a small, forgotten human colony sector, a place of no importance, a place the Varelans had ignored for centuries. "The blade, the god blade, it has been touched," he said, voice cracking. The room fell silent. Priests froze. Fear moved through them like cold poison. That blade was not a normal weapon. It was said to be forged by ancient gods to test who was worthy of divine power. No mortal could lift it, no alien, no warrior, no emperor, only gods, only the prophesied ones. And yet, someone had lifted it, someone the priests did not know, someone in the forbidden human quadrant. Panic spread. The sanctum shook with prayers and fearful cries. "Summon Talzin," the Archon commanded. "Princess of the First Order, Huntress of Blades. She must retrieve the artifact. and she must kill whoever dared to touch it. Meanwhile, back on Vesta 9, Jace casually swung the sword in his garage. It sliced cleanly through a suspended steel pipe. He stared at the perfect cut, his heart freezing in shock. This, this shouldn't be possible. But in the quiet, dark sky above the colony, a Varelian warship had already appeared. The hunt for him had begun. The priests demand a hunt. Princess Varaya Talson did not enter the sanctum with noise. She entered like a whisper of cold metal, like a shadow that moved with perfect discipline. Her silver armor reflected the pale light of the holy chamber, and her eyes, dark, sharp, unreadable, locked onto the trembling priest before she even reached the center. Talzin had been raised since birth to carry the weight of the First Order, the highest warrior caste of the Varrolan Empire. She had trained in rituals that broke weaker minds, survived battles that turned soldiers into dust, and mastered weapons that only responded to those with perfect discipline. But even she felt a strange pressure in the room, a spiritual weight she had never sensed before. The High Archon bowed his head slightly. It was unusual. He bowed to no one. Princess Talzin, the Godweave has been disturbed. Talzin stepped closer. By who? The Archon flicked his fingers, and the giant galaxy map flickered violently. Waves of red pulsed outward from a tiny point, a backwater human colony near the edge of the map's star lanes, a place unworthy of discussion. But the blade's aura was unmistakable. Impossible, Talzin whispered, her cold pride cracking for the first time in years. The blade is sealed. No mortal being can lift it. A mortal did, the Archon replied, voice tightening, and the resonance proves it. Priests around them clutched their robes, muttering prayers in fear. Some cried silently. The last time the god blade awakened, a star collapsed. Talzin stared at the pulsing red point. Whoever lifted it must be divine. No, the Archon said sharply. They must be destroyed. Talzin lifted one eyebrow. If they lifted the blade, then killing them may not be possible. That is why you must do it, the Archon whispered. You, Princess of the First Order. The gods chose you as the blade's guardian. Retrieve the artifact. Bring back the resonance. Kill the human. Talzin did not argue. Her training did not include questions, only obedience. Within minutes, her warship was leaving orbit, slicing into the silent void with engines that glowed like blue fire. Her elite guards, 6 tall warriors dressed in moon-white armor, stood ready in the chamber. Talzin stared at the holographic replay of the cosmic disturbance, studying every spike of energy, every pulse of ancient power. A mortal had awakened the blade, a human mortal. Humans were not respected in the galaxy. They were unpredictable, loud, short-lived, and most species viewed them as primitive. Their planets were messy, their politics worse. Their technology barely scratched 7th-tier energy manipulation. But the God Blade responded to resonance, not technology, and humans had a reputation for strange spiritual noise. Talzin felt something she had not felt in years: curiosity. Far away on Vesta 9, Jay stood in his garage staring at the metal pipe he had sliced. The cut was so clean it looked like a laser had done it. He ran his fingers along the edge, feeling the smoothness. His heart pounded in his chest. No way, he said quietly. He swung the blade again, slower this time, and again it hummed silently, like it cut the air itself. Not just metal. Jace felt the smallest vibration travel up the grip into his wrist, like the sword was alive. Was it dangerous? Was it valuable? Was it radioactive? He had no idea, but something deep inside him whispered that he should put it down. Instead, he picked it up again. Above the planet, the sky tore open with a flash of blue light. Talzin's warship had arrived. It did not announce itself. It did not warn the colony. It simply appeared like a silent silver dagger hanging in the night sky. Colony sensors screamed with alarms. Government screens flashed red. People ran outside to look at the massive ship, larger than any civilian vessel Vesta 9 had ever seen. Inside the warship, Talzin spoke with calm authority. Scan the surface. Look for resonance contamination. Her guards worked quickly. Within minutes, one of them froze. "Princess, we found it." Talzin turned sharply. "Where?" "In a small urban district, in a structure labeled garage." The guard hesitated. "The human is holding the blade." Talzin's jaw tightened. So it was true. She extended her hand. Her armor came alive with silver light as her weapon systems activated. "Prepare landing team," she ordered. "We retrieve the blade, and if the human resists—" She didn't need to finish the sentence. Down on the colony, Jace stepped outside, confused by the alarms and the blue glow in the sky. People pointed upward. Children cried. The entire colony felt like it was holding its breath. "What now?" Jace muttered. He did not have long to wait. The ground shook as a transport shuttle landed in the street outside his garage. A ramp opened. 6 armored alien guards marched out with perfect formation, and behind them, Princess Talzin stepped into the dusty street like a goddess descending from cold stars. Everyone backed away. Everyone except Jace, who still held the sword in his hand. Talzin's eyes locked onto him immediately. The air thickened. The guards raised their weapons. The civilians whispered prayers. Talzin pointed at him with a silver gauntlet. "Human," she said, her voice sharp like breaking stone. "Put down the godblade." Jace blinked. "The what?" "The weapon you hold," Talzin continued, her eyes narrowing, "is a divine artifact. Only gods can lift it. Only chosen ones can awaken it." Jace shrugged. "This? I bought it from a yard sale bin." Talzin froze. Her guards froze. The entire street froze. The blade in Jace's hand began to pulse with a faint, dark light. And Talzin whispered almost to herself, "Impossible. The blade has chosen a human." When worlds collide. The street outside Jace's garage had never been silent before, not even once. It was always full of loud merchants, broken machines clanking, children shouting, and the distant hum of colony generators. But when Princess Talzin stepped forward and the sword in Jace's hand began glowing with a deep, ancient pulse, the entire world seemed to stop breathing. Even the air felt frozen. Civilians held their children and stepped back slowly, not sure if they should run or bow, or simply stare at the impossible sight of a human holding what the Varellan priest called a divine weapon. Talzin did not move immediately. Shock and confusion battled inside her mind, 2 emotions she had trained her whole life to suppress. She had fought beasts that lived in the vacuum between stars. She had stood in the center of collapsing temples where gods were said to speak. But never in her life had she seen the god blade respond to anyone, especially not a human. Her dark eyes stayed fixed on the weapon, watching how the black metal pulsed like a living heart. Jace held the sword awkwardly, completely unaware of the chaos happening inside the alien princess's mind. To him, it was still just a strange, too-light piece of metal he bought for 20 credits from a tired old vendor. He scratched his head and looked at Talzin with confusion. "Look, I don't know what your god blade is. I just bought this thing because it looked cool." Talzin's expression tightened. She was not used to being spoken to like she was someone's confused neighbor. She was a princess, a warrior, an enforcer of cosmic laws, and yet the human was talking to her like she was part of the yard sale. She raised one hand. Her guards instantly formed a circle. Blasters aimed at Jace's chest. The civilians backed away even farther. Dust rose around Talzin's boots as she took a slow step forward. "Human," she said with cold authority, "there are artifacts in this galaxy that even empires fear. You hold one of them." Jace blinked. "You mean this rusty sword?" The guard shuddered. Talzin's jaw tightened. She inhaled slowly, trying to understand how a human, someone from a species the priests always described as spiritually chaotic, could treat the most sacred weapon in Varlan history as if it were a toy. "This weapon," Talzin said, voice steady, "was forged before our oldest temples existed. It can move stars. It can reshape worlds. No mortal has ever touched it and lived." Jace looked at the blade. "Well, I'm still alive." The blade pulsed again, darker, deeper, almost responding to his words. Talzin felt a chill creep down her spine. "Yes," she whispered. "That is the problem." Before she could continue, the ground beneath them shook violently. A strange hum filled the air. Jace spun around, confused. What now? One of Talzin's guards checked a device on his wrist. His voice cracked with panic, something Verlin soldiers never showed. Princess, the Blade's awakening signal has reached the outer sectors. We are receiving multiple distortion waves. Talzin stiffened. She knew exactly what that meant. Other empires had sensed the awakening, other enemies, other priesthoods. The galaxy was coming. She stepped closer to Jace. Human, listen carefully. You must give me the blade. Jace stepped back. Whoa, excuse me. Why? I didn't steal it. I paid for it. Talzin clenched her fists. This is not about theft. That weapon should not be in your hands. It is too dangerous. Jace raised the sword slightly. Dangerous how? The blade answered for her. Black lightning snapped across its surface. The air around it warped like heat waves. A low whisper, something old, something ancient, echoed in the back of Jace's mind. He froze as strange symbols appeared on the blade, glowing softly. Talzin gasped. The guards fell to their knees, terrified. The blade is revealing itself to him, one whispered. Talzin's voice was barely steady. This should be impossible. The blade has not shown its markings in 1,000 years. Jace stared at the strange glowing symbols. He didn't know the language, but somehow he felt pulled toward it, like the sword was showing him something familiar. Something buried deep in human history. He took a slow breath. Okay, maybe it's not a toy. Talzin stepped closer until she stood less than a meter from him. Her soldiers moved nervously, unsure if she should be so close to a human holding a divine weapon. Jace could see his reflection in her silver armor, and the strange glow of the blade reflected across her face. Human, she said softly. Tell me your name. Jace. Jace. Talzin said the name slowly, tasting the unfamiliar human sound. You do not understand the danger you are in. The moment the blade awakened, the entire galaxy felt it. Empires, assassins, priesthoods, they will all come for you. Jace tried to process her words. Why me? Talzin hesitated. Her voice lowered to a whisper she rarely used. Because the blade has chosen you. Jace frowned. Chosen me for what? Before Talzin could answer, the sky tore open again, this time with a violent flash of red light. A thunderous boom shook the colony. Everyone screamed and ran for cover. Even Talzin stepped back as a giant ship, not Varlin, not friendly, appeared above the colony. A rival alien faction. They had come faster than expected. Talzin's guard shouted, Princess! They are weapons, hot! Jace looked at the blade. It pulsed harder, faster, like it wanted something. Talzin's eyes widened. Human? Jace, you must come with me now. The rival ship opened its lower bay. Dozens of red-armored soldiers prepared to descend. Jace swallowed hard. And if I don't? Talzin stepped close, grabbed his arm with iron strength, and whispered, Then you will die, and the galaxy will fall with you. The blade flared bright, blinding everyone. The rival soldiers screamed. The entire colony shook as the ancient weapon awakened fully in Jace's hand. The war for the God Blade had begun. The truth about humans. The blast of bright light finally faded, leaving the street covered in dust, cracked pavement, and terrified civilians hiding behind broken walls. The rival red-armored soldiers who had started to descend were gone, some vaporized by the sudden burst of energy from the awakened blade, others thrown back into their ship by invisible force. Only scorch marks remained where their landing beams had flickered moments before. The colony had expected destruction, but instead, silence returned. A heavy, frightened silence. Jace lowered the blade slowly, staring at it as if it were an alien creature. His hands trembled, not from fear alone, but from something else, some strange echo inside him. The sword no longer felt like metal. It felt alive, like it was breathing with him, and deep within its dark core, he sensed a whisper, a memory that wasn't his. Talzin stepped forward, breathing hard behind her silver mask. Jace, she said, voice sharp with urgency. We must leave. Now. Jace looked up, confused. I didn't mean to. Whatever that was. I didn't try to attack anyone. Talzin shook her head. You did nothing. The blade protected itself, and by protecting itself, it protected you. Jace glanced at the sky. The rival ship slowly drifted backward, damaged and smoking, but not destroyed. It had tasted the blade's power, and it would return. Talzin motioned to her guards. Prepare for immediate extraction. The resonance is growing. But the guards were pale under their helmets. One of them, shaking slightly, stepped forward. Princess, before we leave, you must tell him. It has started. Talzin hesitated. Her eyes slid toward Jace, who was watching her closely. He was confused, scared, angry, and most dangerously, curious. She could feel the god blade vibrating faintly in his hand, reacting to every shift in his emotions. The more he felt, the more it awakened. Talzin took a slow breath. Jace, there is something you must know. He crossed his arms. Yeah, I think I deserve an explanation. She signaled her guards to step back. Then she removed her silver helmet, revealing her pale, moonlit face and dark, depthless eyes. The act alone made the alien crowd gasp. Verilans rarely showed their real faces to non-Verilans. It was a gesture of deep trust, or deep seriousness. Talzin looked directly into Jace's eyes, and her voice softened in a way no one in the colony had ever heard from an alien princess. Humans are not what you believe. Jace frowned. We're not? Because last time I checked, we're pretty normal. Talzin shook her head. Normal? No. Chaotic? Yes. Unpredictable? Absolutely. But your species carries something else. Something ancient. Jace raised an eyebrow. Ancient, like dinosaurs ancient? Talzin ignored the joke. The universe measures life through resonance, the spiritual energy that all living things release. Most species have steady, predictable patterns. But humans are something else entirely. Jace blinked. What do you mean? Talzin stepped closer, her gaze intense. Human resonance is volatile, wild, and impossible to categorize. Even our strongest priests cannot read it. You produce surges when you feel pain, joy, fear, love, anger. Your emotions twist the very fabric of energy around you. Jace stared at her. We're emotional. That's not a secret. Talzin shook her head. You misunderstand. Emotion in humans is power. It makes you unpredictable to every calculation in the galaxy. Empires cannot predict you. Priesthoods cannot control you. Even machines fear your chaos. Jace laughed nervously. Machines fear us? Come on. Talzin stepped even closer. When humans first traveled into deep space centuries ago, every major alien empire agreed to block human expansion into the sacred sectors. Not because you were weak, but because you were too dangerous. Jace felt cold. Dangerous how? Talzin's voice dropped to a whisper. Every prophecy, every ancient text, every carved temple has the same warning. When a human touches the God Blade, the universe will change. Jace felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. Change how? Talzin looked at the blade in his hand. The symbols on it glowed brighter the longer she stared. We do not know, but the last time a being with your resonance touched it, an entire star system rearranged itself. Jace stepped back. You're saying humans have powers? Talzin paused. Not powers, potential. A kind of raw, spiritual force that makes the God Blade react like nothing else in existence. Jace shook his head slowly. This is insane. I'm just me. The blade does not choose lightly, Talzin said, and it has chosen you. Jace swallowed hard. But why me? I'm not a warrior. I'm not special. I'm a scavenger. Talzin's eyes softened for the first time. You misunderstand again. The blade does not choose warriors. It chooses those with unresolved paths, those with hearts that have not decided who they truly are. You are not chosen because you are strong, but because you can become anything. Jace stared at her, stunned. Before he could answer, her guard shouted from behind, "Princess, incoming ships, multiple signatures, 3 different factions." Talzin snapped her helmet back on, eyes burning with urgency. "Jace, you must come now. If they get here, they will try to take you. They will try to take the blade." Jace tightened his grip. The blade pulsed again, this time stronger, clearer. He felt a faint voice call to him from inside it, like a memory he had forgotten long ago. For the first time, Jace whispered to himself, "Maybe I really don't know who I am anymore." Talzin extended her hand. "Come with me." Jace hesitated for one moment, then stepped forward. The sky above them exploded with red and blue streaks as 3 alien warships descended toward the colony. The hunt for the Godblade was no longer a secret. It was a war. The Empire moves. The 3 alien ships descending on Vesta 9 were not small patrol crafts. They were war carriers, massive iron beasts shaped like claws ripping through the clouds, their hulls glowing with crimson and violet fire. Each belonged to a different faction. Each came for one purpose. Each came for Jace. The colony had no defenses powerful enough to stop even one of them, let alone 3. The sky looked like it was burning alive, and the ground shook with every passing second as the shadow of the ships spread across the settlement like a falling eclipse. Talzin grabbed Jace's arm and pulled him behind a broken cargo loader. Her eyes scanned the sky, calculating, analyzing, predicting. She recognized the symbols on the nearest ship. Red armored insignia, a spear wrapped in flame. "The Korth Dominion," she whispered. "Assassins. They kill for artifacts." Jace swallowed hard. "And the others?" Talzin pointed at the second ship, shaped like a long obsidian dagger. "The Zeran cult. They believe the Godblade is their path to rebirth. They will take it, even if they must tear you apart." Jace felt his stomach sink. "And the last one?" Talzin's jaw tightened. "The Orion Collective, machine life. They calculate outcomes. And they have calculated you are a threat." Jace stared upward, stunned. "Are you telling me 3 entire alien factions came just because I touched a sword?" Talzin grabbed his shoulders. "Not because you touched it, because the blade woke for you. They think you are the beginning of a prophecy. They think you can change the galaxy." Jace stepped back in disbelief. "But I'm not a chosen one. I'm not a warrior or a leader. I barely know how to swing this thing." Talzin's voice softened. "The blade does not choose warriors. It chooses souls who can reshape destiny." Before he could argue, the first ship fired 2 streaks of burning red energy directly toward the colony streets. Buildings exploded. Dust and metal flew everywhere. Civilians screamed and ran in every direction. Talzin pushed Jace to the ground just as a wave of heat passed over them. "Move!" she shouted. Her guards formed a defensive ring around them, shields glowing with pale blue light as they blocked falling debris and burning chunks of metal. Talzin lifted her wrist communicator. "Command shuttle, lock on to my signal." But before the shuttle could descend, something impossible happened. A figure landed between Jace and Talzin with a deafening crash. A Korth Dominion assassin. Its armor was blood red, its face hidden behind a mask with glowing purple eyes. 2 energy blades extended from its wrists, crackling with silent lightning. It moved with unnatural speed, faster than anything human eyes could follow. Talzin reacted instantly. She drew her silver staff spear and blocked the assassin's first strike, sparks shooting into the air. But the assassin was stronger. Its second strike hit Talzin's chest plate with brutal force, sending her sliding back across the ground. "Princess!" her guards shouted, but the assassin ignored them. It focused on Jace. It pointed a blade at him. "Human," the distorted voice growled, "you have something that does not belong to you." Jace held the sword out instinctively. His hands trembled, but the blade felt strangely calm, almost reassuring, like a living thing whispering, "Do not fear." The assassin lunged. Jace raised the sword without thinking. The god blade moved on its own. A shock wave of black energy exploded from its surface, smashing into the assassin like a hammer. The alien flew back, crashing into a metal wall so hard the entire street shook. Even Talzin's guards froze for a moment, staring in disbelief. Jace stood in the middle of the street, sword raised, breath shaking. "I didn't." I didn't do that, he whispered. Talzin stood, her armor dented but her eyes full of awe. You did. The blade is sinking with you. The assassin rose again, slower this time, limping, furious. It roared and prepared another attack. Jace braced himself, but Talzin stepped forward, blocking the assassin with a fierce strike from her staff spear. He is under my protection, she said, voice like steel. The assassin twisted its head. Then you will die with him. But it did not get the chance to attack. A beam of violet fire shot down from the Zoran cult ship, blasting the ground between them. The assassin was thrown aside like sand in a storm. Zoran warriors descended from the ship wearing black robes, their eyes glowing with ritual symbols. The lead priest pointed at Jace. The blade seeks rebirth. The chosen must be taken. No one is taking him, Talzin shouted. But before she could engage them, the third ship acted. The Orion Collective released machine drones, floating chrome spheres with red scanning lines. They swarmed downward in perfect formation, analyzing Jace, the blade, the ground, everything. The machines spoke in one unified voice. Human resonance unstable. Probability of cosmic distortion, 87%. Subject must be neutralized. Neutralized? Jace shouted. I didn't ask for any of this. A drone fired at him. The blade reacted before Jace could breathe. A shield of black energy appeared, blocking the shot and sending it straight back at the drone. The explosion ripped through 3 more drones. The air was filled with smoke and burning circuits. Talzin grabbed Jace's arm again. You see now? You cannot stay here. You cannot run. You can only survive if you understand what you carry. Jace shook his head. I don't understand anything. Talzin leaned close, voice trembling in a way Jace had never heard from her before. Then understand this. Your life is no longer ordinary, and the galaxy will kill itself trying to take you. The sky thundered again as enemy reinforcements prepared to land. Talzin shouted to her guards, Form the inner circle! Evacuation pattern Alpha 7! The guards formed a protective ring around Jace and Talzin, shields raised. A beam of blue light shot down as Talzin's command shuttle finally arrived. Get him inside, she roared. Jace stumbled forward, blinking as the blade pulsed brighter, heavier, louder. And as the shuttle door slammed shut and they lifted into the sky, Jace saw the rival armies turning their weapons toward each other, ready to fight over him. The war for the God Blade had truly begun. The God Blade's chosen. The shuttle shot upward through the smoke-filled sky, engines roaring as Talzin forced maximum thrust. The colony shrank below them, burning buildings, broken streets, panicked civilians, and 3 alien factions tearing at each other like wild beasts. The rival ships fired at one another, drones collided midair, and red-armored soldiers screamed war cries that echoed across the metal platforms. All of it, just to capture 1 human and 1 ancient blade. Jace sat in the center of the shuttle, his hands still wrapped around the sword. The black metal pulsed like a heartbeat, and every pulse echoed through his chest, making his nerves feel like they were vibrating with electricity. He stared at the blade, confused and terrified, but also strangely aware. A sensation he couldn't explain, like something deep inside him was awakening. Talzin kept her eyes on the controls. Sweat dripped down her temple. Her voice was sharp and calm but tense. Hold on, they will try to lock onto us. Jace gripped the seat. Try? They're already doing that. A bright beam of purple fire streaked toward them from one of the cult ships. Talzin swerved sharply, and the beam shot past the shuttle, grazing its side and melting part of the armor. Sparks exploded inside. One of her guards grabbed a fire suppressor and blasted the console. Shields down to 30%, he shouted. Talzin's jaw tightened. If they hit us again, we fall. Jace's heart pounded. Why don't you just drop me? I'm the target, not you. Talzin turned sharply, her eyes cold and fierce. I do not abandon those under my protection. Another shot hit the shuttle. The entire cabin shook violently. Talzin forced the ship forward, diving between 2 enemy drones before shooting into open space. At last, the stars appeared. They had escaped the colony, but they had not escaped the war. 3 enemy ships immediately changed course to follow them. Talzin locked the navigation system into hyperspace jump, but the console flashed red. Error. Resonance interference detected. Jump impossible. Talzin slammed her fist on the controls. The blade's energy is disrupting the jump field. It's too powerful in close quarters. Jace clutched the sword tighter. So what do? We run, Talzin said. And we pray. The shuttle sped across open space, weaving between debris fields and abandoned mining stations. But the enemy ships kept closing. They were faster. They were built for war. Talzin's guards stood ready with weapons, but their faces were tight with fear. Then something changed. The blade glowed brighter, brighter than ever before. The symbols on it lit up like burning stars. Jace felt a pressure in his head, a whisper like 1,000 voices speaking at once. He clutched his skull and groaned. Talzin rushed to him. Jace, Jace, look at me. I'm seeing something, he whispered. Something is calling me. The shuttle lights flickered. The blade released a soft shock wave, not violent, but guiding. Then holographic symbols appeared in front of Jace, floating blue lines tracing a route through space. Not random, a path. Talzin stared. What is this? Jace breathed slowly. It wants us to go here. Talzin studied the coordinates. Her eyes widened. That is the Tesseract Edge, a sealed region. No ship has entered it for thousands of years. It's calling me, Jace whispered. It's calling us. Talzin hesitated, then nodded. Then we follow. She entered the coordinates. The shuttle sped toward the forbidden region, and as they approached, something incredible happened. The enemy ship slowed. Their scanners flickered. Their engines stuttered. They could not enter. The Tesseract Edge was blocking them. Jace felt the blade grow warm in his hand. It's protecting us. Within minutes, the shuttle slipped through a shimmering barrier, a curtain of blue energy. The moment they passed through, everything went silent. No engines, no noise, no sound, just a vast, endless quiet. The interior of the Tesseract Edge appeared, a giant cosmic cube of light and shadows floating like a broken god machine. Stars bent around it. Time felt strange. And at its center was a glowing sphere, an ancient chamber. The blade pulsed. Talzin stared in awe. The Chamber of Origins! The shuttle drifted toward it as if guided. They landed on a floating platform, and Jace stepped out, the blade in hand. The chamber doors opened with a slow, ancient rumble, responding only to him. Inside, the air was cold and heavy, like stepping into the heart of history. The walls were covered in carvings, not alien symbols but human ones. Old languages from Earth, Greek, Sanskrit, Latin, Chinese, all mixed together in patterns that seemed impossible. Talzin whispered, "These markings, they are human." Jace raised the blade. Its glowing symbols matched the carvings exactly. The chamber lit up. A giant hologram appeared, an ancient figure shaped like a human elder, cloaked in light. Its voice echoed across the chamber. "Child of Earth, you have awakened the blade, and thus, our message." Jace froze. "Who are you?" "We are the first humans," the figure said. "Those who lived long before your recorded history. Those who shaped galaxies before memory began." Talzin gasped. "The humans were the ancient ones?" The hologram nodded. "The blade was created to test our descendants, to find one who has the heart, not the strength, the soul, not the power, to lead the galaxy when darkness rises." Jace took a step back. "I'm not a leader. I'm no chosen one. I'm nobody." "All leaders once said the same," the elder replied. "The blade chose you because your destiny is unwritten. You are pure possibility." The hologram raised its hand. A beam of light touched the blade. The blade exploded with energy, absorbing ancient knowledge, history, power, resonance. Talzin shielded her eyes. "Jace!" When the light faded, Jace stood taller, calmer, almost glowing. His eyes held a new depth, like he had glimpsed truths no mortal should ever see. Talzin slowly dropped to one knee. "Jace, my lord, command me." Jace looked at her, then at the blade, then at the stars beyond the chamber. "I don't want to be a god," he said quietly. "I don't want to control anyone." The blade pulsed gently, like a heartbeat in his hand. "But if the galaxy is coming for me," Jace whispered, "then I will stand. Not as a god, Not as a king, he raised the blade. Its glow darkened into a powerful, noble light. But as a human. And maybe that's enough. Talzin bowed her head. Outside the chamber, the enemy ships circled like wolves waiting for their chance. The war for the God Blade had only begun.